Welcome to the Vertical Sky Journal, the podcast that brings you everything you could ever want to know about Kilimanjaro. The climbing and the fitness, altitude and nutrition, the environment, the wildlife, and the people at the heart of the mountain. Today, in our Is Kilimanjaro for Me series, the Complete Beginners episode. Never trekked, never camped, never been higher than a ski lift. This one is for you.
Yeah.
So picture this. You're staring at a brochure for a mountain that's almost 6 kilometers high, and printed boldly right across the page is this phrase, "No experience needed."
Right. It's a classic line.
It is. And, well, if you share my natural skepticism, your immediate thought is to look for the catch. I mean, it sounds remarkably similar to those late-night fitness advertisements.
Oh, absolutely. The sort of perfect physique in 5 minutes a day with zero effort.
Exactly. We naturally assume there's some sort of clever technicality hidden in the small print, because how can a complete beginner climb one of the world's highest mountains?
Well, I completely understand that suspicion. It's a very sensible reaction. It is a massive claim to make about the highest freestanding mountain in the world. But the honest version is that it actually is the genuine truth.
The actual truth.
Yes. First-time trekkers, complete novices, stand on the summit every single day of the season. The catch is not a trick, it's just a job. And that job is preparation.
Preparation, okay.
Yeah. So when we say no experience is required, we are talking about three very specific categories, really. Starting with technical skills.
Right, and I will gladly grant you that one. Because when people picture mountain climbing, they envision, ropes, harnesses, ice axes.
Hanging off a cliff face.
Exactly, clinging desperately to a sheer rock face in a blizzard.
Yeah, and none of that exists on the standard Kilimanjaro rates. These are strictly walking routes. You will never wear a harness, you will not clip into a safety line, and you certainly won't swing an ice axe.
Okay, but isn't there one part I've read about this? There's one section where you do use your hands.
Ah, yes. The famous Barranco Wall.
Right. Now that sounds suspiciously like technical climbing to me.
I know, it sounds terribly intimidating on paper.
Yeah.
But it's actually a guided scramble.
A scramble. So what does that actually look like for someone who's never done it?
Well, you'll stow your trekking poles away, and you'll use your hands to grip these very solid, large rock holds.
Yeah.
You step up carefully. It's not dangling over a vertical void.
So no dramatic, cinematic drop-off.
No. And the funny thing is, first-timers invariably finish the Barranco Wall grinning.
Really? Grinning?
Oh, absolutely. Because it's highly engaging. It breaks up the rhythm of just putting one foot in front of the other, and it is entirely safe under the watchful eye of the guides. They're literally placing your feet for you if you need them to.
Okay, excellent. So the rock climbing fear is banished, but surely, you can't just step off the sofa and onto the mountain. I would assume you need a resume full of multi-day hikes in the Scottish Highlands or, the Alps to even consider an expedition of this scale?
You absolutely do not. That's the second category of experience you don't need, trekking history.
Right.
The core physical requirement for ascending Kilimanjaro is putting one foot in front of the other incredibly slowly for roughly a week. And humans, well, we practice this fundamental movement from the time we're toddlers.
I suppose that's true, but it's a long way up.
It is, but you don't need to have navigated the Himalayas or survived a boggy weekend in the Lake District to walk up a steep, well-trodden path in Tanzania. You are supported the whole way.
Fair enough. Which brings us to the third point, and this is the one I find, the hardest to believe, frankly.
The altitude.
Yes, the altitude. You're suggesting that having no altitude history is not a disadvantage. Surely a veteran climber who has been to 5,000 meters before holds a massive advantage over a complete beginner.
It is entirely logical to think that. I completely agree. But altitude acclimatization defies logic. It's deeply personal and fiercely unpredictable.
Unpredictable in what way?
In that, a veteran who performed perfectly at altitude 5 years ago might struggle completely tomorrow. Your past history offers absolutely no guarantee of future success.
Wait, really? Why is that? What's happening inside the body that makes it so unpredictable?
So your body adapts to high altitude by producing more red blood cells.
Right, to capture the diminishing oxygen.
Spot on. But those extra red blood cells, they actually die off a few weeks after you return to sea level. Your body completely resets.
Oh, I see.
So when you go back to the mountain, even if you're an experienced mountaineer, you are starting the biological adaptation process entirely from scratch.
From square one.
Exactly. Moreover, your body's response changes based on your current hydration, your sleep quality that week, stress levels, and variables that, frankly, medical science still doesn't fully understand.
So because acclimatization is this unpredictable lottery, it sort of levels the playing field completely.
Precisely. Because the biology is unpredictable, the mountain's entire structural system exists specifically to manage it for everyone. The long routes, the famous pole, slow pace, and the twice-daily health checks. These are designed precisely because nobody, not even the lead guides, knows exactly how your body will react on any given day.
That's quite reassuring, actually.
It is. The mountain only cares about what you do for the 12 weeks before you arrive and the 8 days you are on the route. It cares nothing for your past.
Okay, which brings us to a crucial distinction. We've established that experience truly is not required. But we really must prevent false confidence here, mustn't we?
Oh, absolutely.
Because a lack of required experience does not mean the mountain is easy.
Not at all. Kilimanjaro is a serious physical undertaking that requires no experience. Both halves of that sentence are equally true, and understanding that balance is absolutely vital.
Right, so if there are no complex systems to master, no ropes to tie, and the core movement is simply walking slowly, where is the sting in the tail for a beginner? Why is it considered such a monumental challenge?
The sting lies in the profound difference between complicated and hard.
Okay, unpack that for me.
Well, a complicated challenge requires rapid decision-making, technical mastery, reading weather windows, and constant mental calculation. Mountains such as K2 or Everest, they are complicated.
Very high stakes.
Exactly. Kilimanjaro, on the other hand, is entirely uncomplicated, but it is physically arduous. The daily reality involves walking for 4 to 7 hours day after day while sleeping in a cold environment with steadily diminishing oxygen.
And then, of course, we reach summit night, which is a completely different reality altogether.
Oh, summit night is a whole different beast. It involves climbing a vertical kilometer in the bitter cold and complete darkness. It is properly, memorably hard.
Memorably hard. I like that phrase.
It will test your physical and mental endurance to its absolute limits.
Yeah.
But, and this is crucial, that difficulty is precisely what gives reaching the summit its meaning. If it were easy, if anyone could just stroll up, it would just be a very long walk.
Right. And that distinction creates what we might call a beginner's dream scenario, doesn't it? It's a hard but simple challenge. You are essentially freed from the mental burden of managing an expedition.
That is exactly the appeal. There are no critical judgment calls for you to make. Your entire job on the mountain is distilled down to just a few fundamental tasks.
Which are?
You must arrive trained, walk at the pace you are told, eat the meals placed in front of you, drink your water, try to sleep, and tell the absolute truth during your daily health checks.
Tell the truth. We'll come back to that because I know people try to hide things, but meanwhile, the professionals handle everything else.
Yes, they manage the route finding, set the pace, build the camp, cook the food, and monitor safety. The climber is free to simply endure the physical effort.
Which is quite a luxury, really. But understanding that sheer physical demand naturally leads to psychological fears. And I want to address the specific anxieties that plague pretty much every beginner, starting with the pace.
The pace.
Yes. Because it's very easy for us to sit here in a studio and say, do not worry about your speed. But the fear of being the slowest person on the mountain, of forcing everyone else to wait for you while they freeze, is a genuinely mortifying thought for a first-timer.
That fear of being the weakest link is universal. I hear it all the time. Yet it is entirely unfounded on this mountain.
How so?
There is no slowest person because there is no race. The guides enforce a pace called pole, which translates from Swahili as slowly.
Slowly.
Yes. This pace is strictly set by the lead guide at the front of the line, and it becomes everyone's pace. You are not allowed to walk faster than the guide. And I promise you, it is significantly slower than you can possibly imagine walking at sea level.
But honestly, is that not quite difficult for the ego? I mean, if I'm creeping along at a snail's pace, human nature dictates I'll want to speed up just to prove to the group that I'm fit and capable.
And that ego response is exactly how extremely fit people ruin their summit chances.
Really? The fit people?
Absolutely. Your ego is your biggest enemy on the lower slopes. Fighting that slow pace is the actual risk. Lagging behind is not the danger. Trying to rush ahead is what jeopardizes your acclimatization.
Can you explain the mechanics of that? Why is walking faster so dangerous?
It fundamentally comes down to oxygen supply and demand. As you climb higher, the atmospheric pressure drops, meaning there's less oxygen available in every single breath you take.
Right.
If you walk quickly, your muscles demand more oxygen than your lungs can supply in this thin air. You create an oxygen deficit. By enforcing that pole crawl, the guides intentionally keep your cellular demand for oxygen lower than the body's diminishing supply.
They're essentially forcing your body to conserve energy while it adapts.
Exactly. They keep you at a crawl to ensure your biology has the time it needs to adapt.
That makes perfect sense. Okay, the next worry is the accommodation.
Right, the camping.
Yes. For someone who has never camped in their life, the thought of spending their first night ever under canvas halfway up a mountain is highly intimidating. They're picturing, a miserable, shivering experience like a bad school trip.
The word camping conjures up terrible images, doesn't it? Struggling with damp tent poles in the wind, sleeping on hard, uneven ground, and eating cold beans from a tin.
Exactly what I was picturing.
Kilimanjaro is nothing at all like that. The crew builds your bedroom entirely before you even arrive at camp.
So the tents are just there, waiting.
Yes, fully erected. And you are sleeping on a comfortable mattress.
Describe the sensory experience, then, of waking up on the mountain for a beginner.
It's brilliant. You are woken gently by a guide calling at your tent. You unzip the canvas to look out over a sea of clouds. The air is perfectly crisp. And a porter hands you a bowl of hot washing water and a cup of tea.
Oh, wow. In the tent.
Right there at your tent. And later, you'll sit in a dedicated dining tent where the chef serves substantial, hot, multi-course dinners. It is less about camping and much more about being hosted outdoors. Your first night in a tent can absolutely be on this mountain, and it will be a wonderful experience.
That sounds lovely, actually. Then there's the gear worry. Beginners look at these expedition photographs of climbers in massive down jackets, and, well, they assume they need to purchase vast amounts of highly specialized, incredibly expensive equipment that they will never, ever use again.
You need far less than you fear, and you certainly do not need to guide all. That's a massive misconception.
So what can you rent?
The massive, expensive items, the huge down jackets, the trekking poles, they can easily be rented locally. Our packing checklist reduces this overwhelming worry to a single afternoon of straightforward shopping. However, there are two crucial items that you absolutely cannot improvise or rent.
Which are worn-in boots and a proper sleeping bag, I presume.
Exactly. Those two items dictate your comfort and your ultimate success. Your boots must be broken in by your own feet over many weeks.
Because if you rent them.
Renting boots is a guaranteed path to crippling blisters. It will ruin your trip. And your sleeping bag, it must be rated for serious cold. You can rent a jacket, but if you are shivering in a thin sleeping bag at night, your body simply cannot recover from the day's exertion.
Right. And sleep is when you acclimatize, isn't it?
Yes, everything else is manageable, but your boots and your sleeping bag are non-negotiable investments.
Okay. The final major worry brings us back to altitude. Specifically, the fear people have that they are uniquely susceptible to it. They worry their bodies simply will not cope when they get up there.
We really must reiterate that altitude is everybody's lottery. It affects elite marathon runners and complete novices entirely at random. The solution is structural rather than experiential.
Structural. What do you mean by that?
I mean, you defeat the altitude worry by building a fortress of good habits. You choose a long road, you walk at the slow pace, you drink several liters of water every single day, and you honestly report even the mildest headache to your guides.
Reporting it. Because people want to hide it, don't they?
They do, because they're terrified of being sent down. But a headache is normal, and if the guides know about it early, they can manage it. When beginners do these boring routine things well, they have absolutely nothing to fear that veterans do not.
Since altitude is this great equalizer, we must examine the single most important decision a beginner can make before they even book their flights. This is the choice that tips the odds firmly in their favor, which is the route length.
Yes, arguably the most important decision of the entire trip.
Right, because choosing a short, say, 5-day route to save a bit of time or money, it feels rather like cramming for an exam the night before instead of studying all semester. It might look highly efficient on paper, but you are structurally setting yourself up for failure.
That is the perfect analogy. When you cram for an exam, you are relying entirely on short-term luck. When you choose a longer route, you are putting in the study hours. Your body is doing the biological homework.
Right.
The one strategic decision you must make well is to choose a 7, 8, or 9-day itinerary. We strongly prefer the Lemosho or the Northern Circuit routes. Anything shorter than 7 days is a profound false economy.
It is often said in climbing circles that the shorter itineraries are where summit bids quietly go to die.
They truly are. It breaks my heart seeing it. Acclimatization is the entire game on Kilimanjaro, and days are the absolute currency you use to buy that acclimatization. You simply cannot rush biology. As we discussed earlier, your body needs time to manufacture those extra red blood cells and adjust your respiratory rate.
This brings us to what we might call the mountain's arithmetic. Let's paint a picture. If a complete beginner books a well-run 8-day route, they start with a massive structural advantage over an elite athlete who attempts a rushed 5-day route.
Oh, unquestionably. The athlete on the short route will likely fail, despite their superior cardiovascular fitness, because their body simply will not have the time to adapt to the lack of oxygen. They will create that oxygen deficit we talked about earlier.
Whereas the beginner
On the 8-day route allows their body the time it physically demands to adjust to the new environment. It is pure arithmetic. More days on the mountain equal a significantly higher chance of standing on the summit.
Okay, so we've established that choosing the right route manages the altitude. The final piece of the puzzle is managing the physical endurance. We need a practical action plan for what happens before stepping foot in Tanzania.
Yes, the preparation phase.
Right. And to be entirely clear, we are not talking about wearing altitude masks on the treadmill or dragging heavy tires up hills, are we?
We are absolutely not. Please do not do that. The transformation from never having trekked to being fully ready takes 12 to 16 honest weeks. The recipe is highly effective, but it's entirely unglamorous.
What does it look like?
You must walk a lot on hills wherever you can find them.
The goal is to build up to back-to-back weekend days carrying a loaded day pack. Why is the back-to-back element so crucial? Why not just one massive hike on a Saturday?
Because it perfectly mimics the reality of the mountain. Anyone can push themselves for one long day hike and then collapse on the sofa on Sunday with a roast dinner.
Sounds like a lovely weekend.
It does. But on Kilimanjaro, you have to wake up on Tuesday with tired legs, put your boots back on, and go out and walk again. You need to train your body and your mind to understand how it feels to operate on consecutive days of fatigue.
And doing this specifically while wearing the boots you intend to summit in.
Yes, to prevent those blisters we mentioned. Your feet need to mold to the boots, and the boots need to soften to your feet. It's a relationship that takes time.
What about general fitness during the week? When people are at work?
Simple exercises build immense strength. Stairs are humble and mighty. Walking up and down stairs builds the exact leg muscles you will rely on for ascending and descending the mountain.
Right.
Then, as your departure approaches, you finish with a taper, deliberately reducing your activity in the final 2 weeks to ensure you arrive at the mountain fully rested.
So the true test of this training plan is consistency rather than heroics. It's not about executing one massive, exhausting hike. It is about getting out the door every single week, regardless of the rain or the cold. The mountain sorts climbers by their last 12 weeks of effort, not their athletic starting point.
That's beautifully put, and it brings us to the emotional core of why complete beginners tackle this mountain in the first place. Kilimanjaro is perhaps the best first mountain on Earth, precisely because it asks for absolutely no history from you.
Nothing at all.
It only asks for a decision today, followed by 12 weeks of keeping your word to yourself.
You do not climb the mountain because you are ready. You get ready because you decided to climb the mountain.
That is the exact mechanism. You commit, and the preparation follows the commitment.
Consider the psychological aftermath of that process. If the mountain requires 12 weeks of unwavering commitment, 12 weeks of waking up early to train when you would much rather stay in bed, what does that mean for your life when you return to sea level? How does realizing you're someone who keeps massive promises to yourself change your everyday self-image?
It changes everything. I've seen it firsthand.
Yeah.
Every season, we watch complete beginners stand on the roof of Africa at sunrise. These are office workers, retirees, people whose previous highest summit was merely a multi-story car park.
Right.
When they reach the top, the look on their faces is rarely about athletic achievement. It's something far more profound.
The look says, it turns out I kept my promises.
Exactly.
They made a monumental decision. They did the unglamorous work for 12 weeks, and they trusted the structural process of the mountain. They did not need a lifetime of mountaineering experience. They simply needed to decide. Keep that thought with you. Make the decision, put in the 12 weeks of honest work, and the mountain professionals will handle the rest.
Spot on.
Thank you so much for listening. If you enjoyed this, do subscribe so you never miss the latest from the Vertical Sky Journal. You will find a full written version of this episode over on our journal at vertical-sky.com, and we would love you to come and say hello on Instagram, where we are at Vertical Sky TZW. Until next time, pole, and keep dreaming of the mountain.